All right, we're going to be doing some back control and hand fighting tactics from the back today. And a few important concepts that are really going to make a difference in your success from the back position, which should be a position we all invest a lot of time in, right? Getting behind someone and choking them should be what you're always trying to do, and maybe you find other things along the way, but that should be like where you're headed to anytime you're rolling. So now a few things. When I'm directly behind my partner and I connect my back to his chest and we're perfectly square here, both of my hands aren't very long, right? So if I wanted to lock up a strangle, like my hands are barely long enough to do it, right? What we're going to think about doing today is taking the back, but taking a slight angle on our partner so that one of our arms is longer than the other, effectively creating a long strangle arm. Now we'll look at some hand fighting tactics that we can use to get this hand around the neck. But the idea is what we do is we think about getting this hand as long as possible. So I'm hopping my armpit on top of his collarbone here. So this arm is as long as possible. So now even if he were to tuck his chin, I could lock my hands around his face and still choke him. So the whole idea is I get my armpit on his collarbone. This makes this hand very, very long. And I'm going to be able to lock up a good strangle even if he tucks his chin. So the first drill we'll do is a little hand fighting drill that's going to get you used to using one of your hands to beat both of his hands so you have a free hand to go, right? So we're going to take our angle, and whatever side we took that angle, we're going to have the underhook side on that side and have a seat belt. Now you can expect your partner to have two hands on your strangle hand. Any good person is going to be doing this. So a quick grip break we can look to do is I get my hand in here like I'm going for a wrist ride, and I look to connect my fingertips at first. And now I can crawl, walk, 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 and slowly I start breaking the grip. Now I'm left with a wrist grip and a one-on-one. Now from here, this secondary hand of his could do two things. It could either stop me from coming up and strangling him, or it could come down and try to free his other hand. Anytime he does that, I just grab it and I get my grips. Or if he stops my strangle, I effectively also have control, right? So regardless of what he does, if he's stopping the strangle, I'm good. I have straight control. If he goes to peel this hand, I just grab his hand and I have this straight control. Now what I look to do is I graduate from straight grips to cross grips. So what I can do now is I can pass this hand off here and try to grab cross grips here. Again, there's several ways I can kind of bait the hands to come to where I want them, right? So if I'm here and I have straight grips, I can pass this off, and now same thing, I can expect him to either come up here, effectively giving me the grips, or coming down to peel, and now I have cross grips instead of straight grips. This is what we're looking for. Now I can use this top hand to kind of block this second hand from getting in my way as I bring this hand from under his armpit to over top so I can get a long strangle hand, right? So I can use this hand, exactly. If he's trying to come under, I can close the space as I go strangle. If he's trying to go over, I can kind of parry his other hand long enough to get my strangle in deep. One thing I can think about doing is using this bicep. So I'm using this bicep to feed his head into a strong strangle, right? So I'm kind of passing it off. So I have these cross grips. I can also like trap. So momentarily, I'll just cover his forearm with his other forearm, and I'll come in for my strangle. It'll just be long enough to be able to get that hand through. All right, so what we're gonna do for a little drill is we're here, we do this grip break, finger to finger, and end up with straight grips. Now I can pass this off and get a cross grip, and regardless if I go strangle and he grabs it, that's fine. If he attacks down here, that's fine. I just get a cross grip. Now I pinch his hand, throw a strangle. So I guess this is something that can be kind of confusing here. Where do I pass off? So if I just grab this, then I kind of, like this cross grip here doesn't make any sense, right? So if I'm here with straight grips, I would want to come under, grab this cross grip first, and then I can fight for that one. So that's a little confusing, I guess. Now I can use my hand to keep him from coming up and fighting me with his hand as I get my armpit over his shoulder and get a nice tight strangle. All right, so now let's look at what having that advantageous angle looks like in a real life scenario, right? So if I was on Steven's back and I'm on the underhook side and I've got a body triangle and everything is good, you see how his shoulders and my shoulders are both on the mat? So we're both kind of symmetrical here. In this situation, there's a lot of things he can do. He could turn to turtle away. He could go belly up and go toward the mat, right? A lot of things that can happen. So what I want to do is I want to get myself to a situation where I'm kind of around the corner a bit. So I'm not here. I'm here. So when we fall, his shoulder doesn't touch the mat. I'm facing kind of up and he's facing kind of toward the wall. So we're not both facing the same direction. Now this is going to give me the ability to kind of side crunch a bit to extend my partner, and now I can do that whole same hand fighting, right? He's grabbing my strangle hand. I can break the grip. I go for this. I can switch. He goes for the yeah, exactly, and now I pop and I strangle. So that's kind of what that looks like in real life. But what I want to show you guys is how you can navigate from a undesirable position to a more desirable position using our hooks. So if we do get here and we're both on our shoulder, how I don't want to be, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my bottom hook and I'm going to try to find the mat with the sole of my foot. So I'm going to start digging myself using my hamstring to pull myself around the corner until I find the mat. When I find the mat, I can hamstring curl, pinch my knees, and again do a little bit of a side bridge to keep them uncomfortable. Now I've gained my angle. So if I lose it, I can dig myself around the corner and I can lock a body triangle if I can. I can stay here, throw boots, but the idea is I'm misaligned with my partner. So the next drill we'll do is I'm just here, double boots, undesirable position. I'm gonna scoot myself underneath and then hit all the same hand fighting sequences. From there, pretty simple and kind of silly, but just using your hook to dig yourself around the corner is going to make a huge difference. Also, oftentimes you see people like just floating with a hook here. If I can get this hook to connect to the mat, it's going to be much more powerful like shackle for Steven. If he were to try to say like turtle up, like there's nowhere he can go. If I was here, there's a chance he could turtle up. There's a chance he could use his hand to peel this and start going there. So really finding the mat with your hook and digging that in is going to be really important for this one. All right. Something else to note is like I can set up my angle when I'm taking the back preemptively. So like let's say I've passed Steven, he's kind of on his side here, and I'm going to go for a chair sit, right? When I go for my chair sit, I'll make sure I keep my angle. So I'm not going to go for a chair sit and end up square. When I go for my chair sit, I make sure his shoulder never gets to the mat, right? So little things like that. When you're taking the back, make sure to have that little angle secured so you don't have to fight for it after. All right. All the hand fighting sequences we've covered were from the underhook side, the control side, and I'd say like I prefer this side. I feel like I can hold the person for way longer here. But let's look at some strategies that we can use from the overhook side now. But again, we're looking at all the same things, keeping an angle to keep a long strangle hand, staying underneath him and wedging him from the mat so his shoulder isn't on the mat, all that same stuff, but from this side now. So again, I'm not square onto him. I'm making sure I've got a bit of an angle and I'm falling over here. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hide my strangle hand under his lat. And now as I do this, I'm going to keep using my legs, my upper body, my torso to get more and more of an angle, making my strangle hand longer and longer, feeding it deeper into his lat, right? So I'm using my feet to maneuver myself around, fighting deeper and deeper and deeper until I'm satisfied with a really nice grip here. Now, whenever I'm ready, all I'm going to do is I'm going to reach the inside of his bicep. I'm going to pull it up, and I'm going to flip my hand over his shoulder and get a nice strangle. This is kind of like a hidden hand, kind of a tricky one. I could even be like pushing his bicep against his ear while I'm doing this to kind of get him himself to kind of want to bring his elbow down. And as he does that, I pry it and I get my strangle in, right? So all the same stuff. I'm here digging. I might use this other hand to try to glue his bicep to his ear. As he's resisting that, I'll come over the top, pull, flip my hand, and lock in for a nice strangle. All right, so just one little sequence that you can do if you do happen to fall to that overhook side. But keep in mind also, you're just one quick switch away from getting back to that underhook side. So you can kind of spam these two hand fighting sequences over and over and over until one kind of gives you the breakthrough. You don't need like a dozen different hand fighting techniques. You need one or two or three, and just keep hammering them on until you get the breakthrough. Let's give it a shot. 1, 2, 3.